morning, everybody. Sawubona. Unjani. So my presentation is up on here and it's up on there. Right, so what I want to look at today with you is how do we manage and monitor what we are doing. So in other words, how do we use our statistics in libraries to improve what we're doing? So I've got a graph up here, and does anybody want to suggest which of these three scenarios is the best? Is it the blue one, the orange one, or the gray one? Votes for the blue, right? And votes for the orange. So orange got no votes, and votes for the gray. Okay, so gray got some votes. Good. Right, it is interesting to look at a graph where we have absolutely no idea of the context. And what we do is we do what we are taught from school. We do what we are taught by society. And we live in a world in which we think bigger is better, more is better. So the more hours you work, apparently the better that is, which we all know is not actually true. And we look at graphs and we think a graph must go up, okay? And we do that intrinsically. It's how we look at numbers, it's how we look at graphs. So what I want to do with you today is to actually unpack this a little bit. What are we doing with statistics? And part of what I am going to suggest is how do we use statistics for evidence-based decision-making, and how do we tell a story with our numbers? So that's really what I'm most passionate about. Numbers and graphs on their own have very little meaning. You can actually make them mean anything. And most people will look at numbers and a graph with a certain gut reaction to what they are looking at. But things always going up does not actually mean that you are doing a good job. So I know I am standing on this platform representing the University of Johannesburg, and by now you're probably all a bit sick of the social media going on about how we're top of the rankings because we produced the most research output. A big shout out to our librarians because that's how we got there, and that's a whole nother conversation. But being the top, is that really the best? And I'm standing here as well asking, is the ranking game really that useful? Is that why we are librarians? And is there numbers and narratives, and what do we want to do with this? So part of my question is, for us in the library at UJ, the most important thing are our students and our researchers. That's what we're invested in. We're not actually that worried about the rankings. And if we go back to basics and do what we're all passionate about, which is really serving our students and our academics, good things will follow. So I just want to start very quickly with what is data. So remember, data are the raw numbers. Statistics are what you then do with those raw numbers. In other words, how you have begun to analyze those numbers. So this would be a statistical graph. And then evidence-based research is when you take your numbers and the context that you're in and where it is you want to go, and you bring all of this together to make an informed decision. So why measure and monitor? So my question is, what are you measuring? That's the most important thing. And equally important is, why are you measuring? So we can measure all sorts of things in the library. And for a lot of people, they measure these things for KPIs. Well, no, I don't think that's very useful. And it's taken quite a long time at UJ for librarians to trust me when I say, I'm not really interested in the numbers for some target and KPI. I'm really interested in these numbers because I want to know how are we best serving our students and our academics? So we want to measure things that help us do our jobs better. We want to measure things because we want to see where are the gaps. So what are we then doing with these statistics? So for us, it's not about KPIs, it's about looking at the statistics and going, how can we see what we are doing that is effective and continue doing that, and how through the numbers can we change, pivot, do things differently. So how we use our stats at the University of Johannesburg is largely, but not only, for the students. And in the service of the students, it's about motivating our budgets. So we have been very fortunate because we collect really great statistics or good data, which we then use to present our statistics. And because the university can see how much value we are adding, we have been incredibly fortunate that we are probably the only division at UJ whose budget hasn't been cut. And our budget won't get cut in 2024. We're not getting more money, but our budget isn't being cut because people really value what we're doing. Then, of course, statistics are important for benchmarking. And I think statistics are very important for staff development. So when you look at this, you can see, okay, somebody is not really doing so well in training the students. Or why is this person having so many queries? Do we need to upskill somebody else to help them? So it's really about what's going on in our library and how do we do what we're doing better, and where can we identify gaps, and where can we personally improve. And then it's all about the analysis of the students' needs. That's really our big passion at UJ. And then it's about our effectiveness in supporting these students and the value that we offer to the university, and then our effectiveness in assisting the researchers and ensuring that we offer the most relevant information that is easily accessible. So I'm going to give one little example. A number of years, so probably 4 years ago, I think, Madumela, we started with our ORCID program. Yeah. So we have a project that we started with the librarians to try and ensure that every single master's, PhD, and staff member at UJ has an ORCID ID. And if it hadn't been for collecting the statistics, we would not have really been able to see where the problems were. So in one of our faculties, there was great resistance to this. So we had to sort of pivot and change how we deal with that particular faculty. The ORCID IDs, because we all have them now at the university, has been one of the key things that has helped us go up in the rankings. Because everybody has an ORCID ID, they are being picked up much better by all the different platforms that then ultimately lead to rankings. And that's been a direct way in which the library has contributed very significantly to a particular goal of the university. So this helps you to see how we put something in place, we analyze how well it is working, but what we've put in place and the statistics that we are gathering is linked to a particular strategy and goal of the university. Right, so this is just a quick overview of the things that we gather. But what I want you to look at is that we really use stats from our LibGuides, from LibCal, LibInsights, lots of things from Excel, stats from Explorer and Figshare, and more spreadsheets. So my point here is we don't have any fancy data. Yes, UJ is supposed to be the library of the fourth industrial revolution. And for 5 years, we've been trying to get a BIS system on the ground, but that hasn't worked particularly well for us yet. So we are still working with things that are really cheap and easy to use. So every month we look at our statistics and we compare them over a 5-year track. Here is a graph that shows you our trainings. So these are our physical trainings, which is why they went down in 2021. And so this is February, so this was during COVID. And in 2021, we were allowed to do some training physically. And in 2022, we at UJ were back on campus. Lots of politics around that. And then we did really, really well in 2023. So we trained over 7,000 people. Remember, we've got 10,000 first-year students. So what do we do with these statistics? Well, here was our training in February, and then our training in March. And you will see that the number of people we trained went down. So should we be worried? No, because we trained 7,000 people in February. There are 10,000 first-year students. In March, we were mainly training our postgraduate students. I can't expect to see that we train 7,000 and then 8,000 and then 9,000 people every month. If we were doing that, I would have a real problem with the training that we're doing. Why does everybody have to come back for more training? They're not get it the first time. So statistics are not about graphs going up. They're about a story that they tell. And if we get to May, if we get to June, and I suddenly see some huge, big amount of training going on, hey, we're either not doing statistics right, or somehow everybody feels that they need more training. Why? These are students, they've got busy schedules. Right, so some lessons that we learned, and I think this might be the most useful part for you. So the first one is that staff must understand why you are gathering the statistics, because people get scared about stats. We all do. We all feel somewhere at the back of our minds, my job is on the line. Okay, your job is not on the line. What we want to do with these statistics is improve what we give to our customers and ensure that we are doing the right thing. Secondly, the stats are not a way to just focus on your KPIs. I mean, of course, it plays a role in this, but really that's in some ways the least important thing. And then the stats are there to offer us better support to our staff and students. So we can see what we are doing well, improve, change as we have to, etc. And then the thing that we learned was that if we want to be successful with these stats, our own staff have to really buy into this project. They need to understand why we are collecting the stats and how we are collecting the statistics. And Pavlinka and Madumela are both here from UJ, and when the lights go on, I'll ask them to stand up and wave. And do go and chat to them. Pavlinka has been really instrumental in helping our faculty librarians and info librarians understand how to collect the stats and to critique what it is that we are seeing. So the statistics have also been a way for us to think about what we are doing and improve what we're doing. So some of the other lessons learned, and I'm just going to move the mic so that I can see my thing here, is that it was really important to do quite a lot of training with our staff. Why are we collecting these stats and how? Because we all know raw data that is incorrect is useless data. So how do we collect this? And then we have a dedicated data manager. And that would be one of my big takeaways. Have one person employed who looks at your statistics. So you don't need, I mean, there are fabulous products out there, and I'm not saying that it wouldn't be lovely to have them. But most of us are going to struggle to include these expensive products into our budgets. But if you have somebody who understands statistics, they can work effectively with LibQual, LibInsights, and Excel. and then link the library statistics to the university statistics. So this is a big thing that we do. We look at how many first-year students are in the Faculty of Law, and that helps us to decide what is it that we are looking for. If there are only 150 students, you're only going to train 150 students. You're only going to have 150 students taking out information. Whereas in another module like economics, there may be 3,000 students. So one thing does not cover everything. You need to understand your own library statistics in relationship to the university, and then what you are measuring also needs to link in to the university statistics. So something like the ORCID project that links in to the university's project of improving not just our research output, but how much people are being cited. So that is an important statistic, and we show that this is the work we've been doing, and it correlates to improved impact factors. Then we've had a lot of problems with our BIS. We've really struggled to work with the vendors that we were working with to bring everything together that one needed to do in order to have a really effective BIS. But I think the dashboards, etc., that you can get that really integrate all these different statistics are fantastic, and it is where we would like to go. And then the cost of good statistics versus bad statistics or raw data that is not accurate. So this would be one of my other big lessons learned. Really spend time training people so that you get the best raw data. And then for me, statistics is all about telling a story. So if I just look at the statistics that I shared with you about our trainings, the backstory here is that we actually went and designed last year a very comprehensive and very long term, in the way that it was a couple of weeks, orientation program for our students. And everybody was involved in this. I mean, from our shelving staff all the way through to our directors. We were all involved in different ways in this orientation project and process. And what it's led to has been that our libraries are incredibly used. So we have about 10,000 people that go in and out of our library every day. And we have a lot of people that joined our trainings. And when we measure our training, one of the things that we are thinking of doing differently is that we have always asked people to fill out evaluation forms. You know how that goes. Not every them are, and then generally students are very complimentary, and actually we don't learn anything from these evaluation forms. So what we're going to do differently is we're going to do a little quiz, sort of 20 minutes into a training, and that will show us how much have students learned or not. So a different way of collecting statistics, and this is what we're constantly thinking about. Are the statistics that we are collecting the most useful, or can we do things differently? And then it would be a story about our orientation program that led to our trainings, and we did a lot of preparation for these trainings. So students have found them very effective, and they have really learned. And then you see in March and April an uptick in how people are using our resources. And so when I talk about the library, that is the story that I tell using my statistics. So it's quite fine that certain things go down, other things are going up. We can't always be just headed in one direction up the scale. Although sometimes when you're over 50, you do feel that you're just going in one direction up the scale. It's very sad. All right, so some key issues. Statistics are not something to bash people over the head with. Statistics can go down, and that can be a really good thing. We need to have everybody's buy-in so that the raw data is the best it can be. Our staff definitely need training in how to gather statistics, and we need to ensure that people have a little bit of time in order to do this. One person responsible to gather all your stats has worked really well for us. We regularly, as in For us, it's a monthly review of the stats in which our entire management team is involved. So we all look at this and we have a conversation about it. People engage, tell their stories, and we have lessons learned from each other. And then statistics are for making decisions so that when we see, for example, our training is going really well, this could mean that we need to ensure that we have spaces available, or this is a reason why we need to hire another librarian to help us with this. You know, all those kinds of decisions can be very effectively made from good statistics. And then stats that are in line with the university strategy and where you can show that what you did linked to a particular outcome in the university. Another project that we are working on now is helping our postgraduate students in a slightly different way. We really are trying to engage with every single postgraduate student, and this is because the university has, as a key area that it needs to focus on, is trying to get particularly PhD students through the system more effectively. And so we are coming on board and saying, well, we as the library can really help with that, because we can help everybody with their literature review, get a good literature review, you've got a really good base for a PhD, and you're probably going to get that PhD finished much faster. So everybody, thank you so much for listening, and we'll have some questions after the other presentations.